welcome everybody. Put in the chat if you don't mind where you guys are watching from. And yeah, I'm Todd with Carnivore Cure and this chat at Combat Carnivore. And we are back for another episode of Iron Sharpens Iron. We're going to be talking about men's health and SBG and future plans here that we all have. And we'll kind of give you a little quick recap. Yeah, go ahead and let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. We'd appreciate it. And we'll give everybody a chance to kind of roll in here. How was your week, Chad, while we're waiting for people to get in? I know you just made a big move.
Yeah, I just got a lot of stuff down to Oklahoma. And man, I really like it down here in Oklahoma, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, it's just been crazy nonstop moving stuff around, nonstop, getting situated, fixing things that you don't think of too. Like I'm not in construction really, but it's like I got a washer and dryer down here, and then you go to plug it in and realize it's a different plug. You're like,
Right.
oh, like
Yeah,
you know what I
for
mean?
sure.
Like now I got to go get a plug and I'm in a small town, so I have to drive like an hour to go get, a normal plug for the
For
washer
sure.
and dryer. Yeah. So it's just things like that, just bouncing around and being crazy. What about you?
Oh, just a lot of work this week, but well, we should tell everybody about the live stream we have going on tomorrow, too, with Bella, Steak and Butter Gal, and the SBG team. So getting ready for that tomorrow, finishing up some work, and kind of getting ready for the weekend. I've been pretty happy. I've been lifting a lot lately. Which has been really new for me and pretty fun. I kind of put together a little gym in my garage and been doing that pretty consistently. I'm quite enjoying that quite a bit. But yeah, Jason Schultz, new to the channel, viewing from Minnesota, northern Minnesota. That's awesome.
We're at northern Minnesota, Jason. Like Duluth type area. Where you at?
People rolling on. Just gonna answer. But yeah, we started this live, and it's gonna also in the here we go.
Oh, I don't know that place. I'll have to double check on that place. I spent some time in Duluth and some other places in northern Minnesota, so man,
Oh man,
it can get cold. Like that is proper cold up in northern Minnesota. I can't imagine Montana is gets too
it's
worse or
yeah. I don't know. I know Minnesota's got a lot of humidity. I think Montana gets lucky because we don't have a bunch of humidity, so it'll
hmm
get nasty cold here, but it's a little more survivable. It doesn't feel so harsh. I mean, it's plenty bad, but I hear Minnesota has uh, that kind of humidity and cold that'll just cut right through you.
it does. Like the moisture from the lake. Oh my God, I can't handle it.
Yeah,
All
I
right, we
bet.
got Western Texas. All right.
Yeah, Charlie and Maryland, that's awesome. Appreciate you guys. West Texas support and give a big thumbs up. I appreciate it, Charlie. Yeah, and starting next Thursday, we're going to be doing this live stream every Thursday, but starting next Thursday, we're going to be doing it an hour earlier. So this is the last one this late. We had to work it around our schedules, but we got things moved back up. But this live stream is about men's health and in carnivore and what it's done for Chad's PTSD and my depression, anxiety, and things. And I don't know, Chad. To me, did you? I think you targeted carnivore to kind of heal PTSD, didn't you?
Yeah, for brain fog, and I didn't even think it was PTSD because the way my phobias came from weren't even like I thought PTSD meant you had to like get shot at or get blown up, but I almost died in a very unorthodox way, a way that I don't really talk about because it's so embarrassing. But I that really left me with a bunch of weird tendencies and like OCDs and phobias and brain fog, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse over time. So that was like my main thing for targeting, or to use diet in order to cure myself. But
Yeah.
in addition to that, I was dealing with so many digestive issues. Like every digestive issue that you could think of. I would get like chronic like flu symptoms multiple times a week. So I was desperate and I wouldn't say I had like suicidal tendencies, but like I didn't have suicidal actions, if that makes sense. Like I was just ready to die and I would think about different ways of dying, but like I never created a plan
Yeah.
or was like active about it.
So how long carnivore, and what did your diet look like before you felt relief of those things?
So I would say I started to feel an uplift and a relief right when I got rid of processed foods. And that at least gave me a little bit of some, yeah, like you said, relief, some pressure off of my chest that was just so consistent.
Mm.
But the brain fog was still debilitating for whatever reason. But my panic attacks weren't happening as frequent. And then once I went animal based, that's when I started to see a ton of positive movement. And that was just nice to feel like something feel unlodged, like something like got dislodged. And it was like, oh, I'm like moving. I'm not stuck. I'm moving somewhere in the right direction. And that was Paul Saladino's like animal based diet. And then I think that was pretty immediately when I started moving that. But once I went full carnivore, it was probably about 6 weeks in to a pure, when I say pure carnivore, no carbs. Um, and it was just at this point, it was, I think, just like beef and salmon and maybe like a few eggs here and there. And it
Mm.
was about a month in there or like, yeah, 6 weeks. Yeah. Where I started feeling like, oh, I'm on the right path. This is awesome. And I remember, okay, I used to pray. I used to actually pray, and I wasn't a very religious person. Um, but I would pray to anything and anyone that would answer. I said, I need an hour of mental clarity. Please just grant me an hour of mental clarity, and like, I will do anything just for that hour. And I remember 2 days into my first 3-day fast was the first day I woke up with no brain fog and I felt clear and I was like very emotional. So that was once that happened, I felt like vindicated that it was diet related and I was kind of vindicated like the proper human diet was the right path because
Mm.
I've been told I was crazy by so many doctors. So many doctors were like, this is psychosomatic. There's no such thing as diet causing panic attacks and this, that, the other thing. So when I used diet to get rid of all the things that they couldn't get rid of, I was pretty emotional about it.
I bet. So how long total do you think before you? I mean, where are you at with it right now? I mean, how much of it is it 100% gone, or do you still have any symptoms of it? Or
I would say every once in a while I have to work through some things, and especially if like I'm having a really busy day and I kind of didn't do my diet very well. Like sometimes I'll have I would say it's 98% better with just a few occasions of weird things happening. And then like the last few days, for example, I've prepared for it. So like I knew I was going to be crazy. So I've been eating tons of fat, just like
mm,
beef suet and fat trimmings and fatty meat. And I've been the calmest, coolest cucumber. And my wife, she's like freaking out and she's usually like kind of calming me down. And now she's kind of like up and a little anxious and I'm like, yo, it's all right. Like,
right?
so I'm like starting to hesitate to like, or be less hesitant to say like 100. I might be like 100% of the way there. If things keep going the way they're feeling right now.
That's awesome. Now you were on other diets before, right? That on your way
Hmm.
to carnivore to try to heal it. Did any of those diets make it worse?
Yeah, clearly. So like what sucks is, okay, so I kind of like had figured I had some speculations that it was uh, diet related and nutrition related. So I did what everybody's supposed to do. I was like, I'm going to become intentional about my diet. So I go and I Google what is a healthy diet, and I start going down like less red meat, more plant based. and fruits and vegetables, and that made me significantly worse. And I started eating. I used to wake up every morning and eat a couple bowls of cereal, and I never ate like the most garbage cereal, but still cereal. But I switched it to like soy milk and almond milk and stuff like that, and man, that exacerbated the symptoms like crazy. As a matter of fact, when I got my testosterone checked when that was going on, my testosterone was below a 200. I can't
Mm.
remember exactly. I'm trying to find that lab test, but it was below 200. The next time I got my labs checked, it was like a 257 after that. So, anywho, yeah, the vegan and vet, and what that's actually what I was gonna say is even though I was following the diet, I was like, I'm not getting better because I'm not following it hard enough. So then I ended up following this weird diet that a chiropractor prescribed to me, which cost me like thousands of dollars of supplements and visits and all this garbage. And I actually saw a little bit of relief from that because that was more about getting rid of all processed foods. But
Mm.
my digestive system got worse during that. So like my digestive issues. And then, man, I went, I started researching diet after diet. What's like a low histamine diet? What is a like low inflammation diet? What is a low this diet? What is a high this diet? You know what I mean? And I pretty much went through every fad diet and I would commit to every diet because I was so desperate. And you know what's weird? In all those 10 years of looking up those different diets, I never had come across a proper human diet or a carnivore or even sort of animal based diet out of 10 years of hunting and searching and researching. Never ran across it once.
Yeah, it goes to show you how deep the propaganda is when they control all the search engines and the flow of information to push all this stuff, But
Yeah, it's like under the truth is under a pile of garbage, and you
right,
just get exhausted digging through the garbage.
for sure. 100%. Well, and that's why I was asking you if it got worse because the worst that my anxiety and depression ever went was when I actually was on a high protein, low fat, moderate carbohydrate diet. Was
Hmm.
the worst that it ever got. And I was surprised by that, but now it makes so much sense because it was the low fat. For me, it was the fat was the problem. You know, I wasn't feeding my brain, I wasn't balancing my hormones, and I was also the natural diet of low fat is always going to be stupid, seed oils and soy, like you said, soy milk, seed oils, um, seed spray, egg whites, all the inflammatory things that just turn you in. I was eating chicken breast dry,
Hmm.
brown rice, turkey sausage that I put in the brown rice, egg whites, soy milk, uh, like Greek yogurt with protein powders in it, and some almonds, these type of things. And I've never felt worse in my life. And my anxiety went through the roof. Depression was out of control. Like just most of the time finding, literally just making a deal with myself to not eat a bullet for the next 6 hours and see how that went. Trying to buy time 6 hours at a time, and that went on for a long time. And
Yeah.
when I got on carnivore, which was an accident, I didn't even know carnivore. I didn't know keto, carnivore, or anything. I'd heard of Atkins, but I really didn't know what it was. I knew it was you like eat bacon. That's what I heard it was, which sounded like it was, according to my doctor's advice, was ridiculous. Now I was doing this to lose weight, you know. I didn't know the diet could fix depression, anxiety, and those things. I thought I had those things because I was extremely overweight, sick, and my life sucked. you know,
Mhm.
that's what I thought I had them. And I accidentally trying to figure out how to cook chicken better because I did this weightlifter diet for 14 months, and I was just literally I was on the edge, like something was going to give, and I had made this plan to stick with it if it killed me because I was just like something's got to change because right in
Mhm.
there my wife had left, my dad died, my brother died, and I was just like, I got to get healthy or die trying. That was so I had made a promise to myself not to quit no matter what. but I was so depressed and it was so hard after 14 months. So miserable, so tired, just always brain fog, super tired, just walking around as a zombie, like just trying to talk myself into living for another 6 hours at a time all day long, you know? And so I was looking up because I was like, I can't eat another dry piece of chicken. I just can't do it. And so I was like, I looked up how to make chicken not dry. What's the best method to cook chicken? Because you can't put seasonings and salt. Most of the seasonings have sugar in it. All the sauces have sugar in it. So I wasn't putting any of that stuff on there. And I found sous vide cooking, you know, and so I looked up this YouTube channel, and I've told this story before, but I looked up this YouTube channel and it ended up taking me to sous vide anything or sous vide everything. And I started watching them sous vide these ribeyes and then sear them. And they look just so delicious that I ordered all this sous vide machine and vacuum sealer and stuff online. And when I got here, I was like, before I go back to, I'd watched so many videos of these guys sous vide and ribeyes and picanha steak that I was like, I'm going to have a ribeye before I go back to this dry chicken. I'm just going to have one. Well, typical, lion brain. I went to Costco and I got a 4-pack of ribeyes. And if I was only going to eat one, I don't know why I bought 4. But that ended up being the greatest mistake that I ever made because I did the macros and I'm like, you know what? If I just eat one ribeye seared in butter and I don't have the carbohydrates, and I just eat that one meal a day with one ribeye seared in butter, I can actually fit it in at least in my calories. Like it wasn't that much more calories than I was already eating. But it was just different macros. And I'm like, I'll just do this one. So I'll just eat one ribeye seared in butter, and that's all I'll eat today. And I'll do that until these 4 ribeyes are gone, and I'll go back to chicken. So I ate those 4 ribeyes over 4 days, and that's all I had was one ribeye a day, seared in butter, and I felt fantastic. Like I felt so good. My brain lifted, and I couldn't figure out why. The brain fog lifted, my mood lifted. I was happy. I was waking up with energy. I just didn't feel like I was walking dead all day, And I had to look it up, and I'm like, what's going on? And that's what actually sent me down the ketogenic diet path because I was like, why do I feel so good? And I lost like 11 pounds or something in 4 days. It was crazy. And it was inflammation for sure. It's fluid. But I was just losing inflammation. And so I had to look it up. I'm like, why do I feel so good on ribeye and butter? And it brought up a ketogenic diet. And so that kind of derailed me for a few years because I went down the keto path before I found carnivore. But what did happen even then in keto was my depression lifted, my anxiety lifted. And I started realizing that wasn't just a side effect from having a crappy life, being sick and being so heavy. It was actually a diet. And I started researching that and going down that path before I got here. But that's what I realized in that time was the entire time, the reason why that diet had me so suicidal so bad, I thought it was because my wife left and brother died, dad died, and all this stuff. And I'd had that for forever, but this was the worst it had ever been. I thought it was just from those circumstances, but it was that low-fat diet. That's what it was
Absolutely.
from.
Absolutely. I would have some days, and like I had to think about it in retrospect though, but when I would eat something super dry, super lean, I would have like almost schizophrenic episodes that night where it was just like my brain was freaking rattled, like could not handle it. But you know what? Like it was interesting because I believe that the soy messed me up so bad uh, with all the proteasers preventing me from being able to digest protein. And then by doing the low fat diet for so long that my gallbladder wasn't like kept up. So when I would eat those things that were high in fat, I would listen to my body and be like, well, I don't feel good. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so you're kind of like, if you don't know what's going on, you could just be kind of, when people say listen to your body and everything in moderation, they could gravely be misleading you. And so I know what you're talking about, where when you finally like hear what's going on and you understand, oh, this is my body like upregulating bile, or this is my body cleaning out its gallbladder, this is my body getting back at stomach acid, even though that's uncomfortable. And I'm like, what's it called? Like detoxing and what's the word I'm looking for? Carbs. Like
Yeah.
when your body is like going through that dopamine and like addiction release from like the carbs. Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable experience because they say like, well, my body doesn't like that. Of course it doesn't like that. It's like changing fuel sources. So I get what you're saying. But it's weird because those days where I would eat those foods, my brain would be the calmest.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, okay, I don't have anxiety, but maybe I don't have anxiety because I'm concentrating on the fact that my stomach is falling apart. You know what I mean?
100%.
But it's hard to look at it. Like it's cool in retrospect to look back and be like, oh, that's what was happening to me. But in the moment, you're just like so lost and you're already anxious, you're already mentally unstable. And so like you're just like worried and you're researching and you're going down some of the wrong rabbit holes and you're trying to justify the things that are going on. It's just a miserable experience.
100%. I know exactly what you mean. And it's crazy, right? And this is why I'm such a proponent for carnivore communities and why I send everybody to the steak and butter gang is because those things that you're talking about there, when you're switching that fuel source, when you're going through the gut microbiome changes, when you're having issues with gallbladder and bile and trying to figure out what's going on, when you're detoxing, when you're oxalate dumping, when you're going through all these things, it can make you question, because some days you feel almost euphoric. You feel so good, you know, and then other days, for some reason, you have a reaction or a problem and you don't know why. And you don't understand that, it's your body kind of cleaning itself out, or, there's different metabolic things that start to happen. And you go through these metabolic changes and you go through these composition changes as things heal. And it's kind of a wild ride, and so it's hard to understand. And if you didn't know better, and if you didn't have experienced people around you to tell you, you'd start questioning, is this the thing,
Right.
and you'd start changing things up. You'd be very reactive to when something started feeling negative. You'd have a reaction and you might quit what you're doing. You might change your plan, but it's different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's difficult, and that's when, because I did the first 9 months of carnivore on my own, and I white knuckled it kind of through it, and I did a lot of bad, things wrong, but ultimately it got me here. But I stayed away from, I saw all the groups and I thought, oh, these things are just trying to take your money. And I don't get paid at all to say this. But when Lindy got me into the SBG gang and I got in there, I was like, this is such good information. This explains, because I was kind of going crazy, going, is this happening to me? I was kind of trying to put these pieces together, but I was like, I think when I eat chicken, I don't feel good. I think, every time they keep saying to eat fat, but I eat fat and then, it gives me gut problems and I'm in the bathroom, right? And you start
Mhm.
going through all these things. And then I got into the SBG gang and all of a sudden everybody had an explanation for these things. They're like, yeah, you're gonna be going through these gut microbiome changes. You're gonna be going through these bile changes, cold fat over hot fat and rendered fat. They give you all these steps to kind of go through them. Same things with when you'd wake up and you have a headache, or you're, what I now know to be oxalate dumping or detoxing, and then, where fasting comes into play and the things that make you more fat adapt. I didn't realize how insulin resistant I really was, and how I actually needed to eat instead of, restrict to heal this metabolic disease that I had and this insulin resistance I had. And it was quite incredible. But so I've changed my mind on a lot of things. Like I used to, I've come to, well, in fact, this is a good point too, which I am now a partner with those guys because I started taking those carnivore bars. Have you ever had those carnivore bars, Chad?
Oh yeah, I ate one. I did a video for them on the way here, driving here, because I won't stop at a fast food restaurant, and so I
Right.
just fat. I usually fast through like traveling, but having
Yeah.
a carnivore bar was super nice.
Oh, it is. And so I've actually come, I didn't realize, I thought, oh, they're too small to do any good. I did not realize how rich and packed full of protein and fat those things are. So
Yeah.
now they're like my favorite thing to use for when you're busy and you need fat, when I start feeling brain fog coming on, or if I just feel my brain energy's low and I hit
Hmm.
one of those things, man, it's incredible how ridiculously satiating those 2-ounce bars are.
Yeah. They told me to put it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I pulled one out of the freezer and it was like a candy bar. And maybe
Yeah.
it's just because we're fat adapted, but it was
Yeah.
like just all that fat and protein in one
Yep.
bite. Oh my God. Yeah, I
Man,
loved it.
they're super good. What's your favorite flavor?
Well, I only do the salt beef and tallow, so like the
Yeah.
plain.
Yeah, that's the one I like too. I did have one of their garlic ones, and I enjoyed the flavor, but I don't really do much outside of the unsalted beef and then the salted beef.
Hmm. Yeah,
So, but yeah, they're pretty tasty. No, I quite enjoyed that. And do you have a link with those guys too?
I do. Yeah, but use yours for here. It's okay.
Well, no, it's okay. Just if whatever channel you're on, hop in if you're on their channel and you want it. I think mine gives 10% off. I bet yours does too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah. You
my
just click.
link's in the description. Yeah, so
Yeah, it's same for here. So, yep. Just if you guys are thinking about buying, but yeah, it's really interesting. I never thought I'd be selling any kind of bars, but when I found out how satiating they are, I was like, man, these are actually pretty amazing. Now I find myself eating them every day. It's kind of funny.
I just want to like kind of what Anthony Chafee says. It's like I just want to support meat-based products. Like I want this there to be enough economy and movement and I guess political movement in carnivore-based ideas and carnivore-based products and carnivore-based market. There's the word I'm looking for. So that way, like the more powerful the market is, the harder it'll be to kill. You know?
Yeah,
So
for sure, for sure. No, we got to support each other for sure and make it more mainstream. But that's awesome. Um,
also, people get really discouraged too when they go carnivore because, like, especially when you're like me and all I eat is like ruminant meat, salt, and water. To have an easy option out there, like to have an option out there that like it, a lot of people get discouraged in the fact that there's just no options. But so it's just completely like I love the fact that people are coming out with those types of options because most of the time it's like, can you have this? No. Is this okay? No. Like for me, it's just no. It's always no. So for there to be a bar out there that's like, yes, it's like, what? So it's kind of cool for me. Like I'm
yeah,
really excited about it.
no, yeah, I do enjoy that aspect too. It's like try to go in the store. Like I used to do this when I was even on keto, and you try to find like a ranch dressing or something that's not a seed oil. It's impossible. You can't
It's
find one that's not a
impossible.
seed oil. Every one of them is a seed oil. You try to find any kind of packaged food, you go to try to get meat sticks, and even the best meat sticks still have something in it, something under other natural flavors and ingredients. There's always something on it. It's just like, it is nice that carnivore bars is literally just like meat, salt, and like if it's the garlic one, then garlic. If it's not, it's just like ribeye and salt.
Yeah. And it's
It's
so
crazy.
fatty. That was the thing that shocked me is when I took the bite into it. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, this is like all fat. This is awesome. I was expecting like a beef jerky or something like
right.
that.
Yeah, it's
Completely threw
legit.
me off.
It's legit like pemmican. It's crazy.
Mm. So
No,
there's
that's
some.
pretty amazing. Go ahead.
So I want to say when you were talking
Oh,
kind of like into keto getting moved into carnivore, um, how like the only example I can think of is like cocaine. Okay, so everybody they think that everybody's so scared to go through pain and discomfort in order to get to a better to get to a better place. And the more sick you are, the more uncomfortable it's going to be to get back on that right path. And so it sucks because for me, it was like 2.5 weeks of just misery getting on a carnivore. And if I didn't have a support group or if I didn't understand what was going on, I would have easily been like, this is obviously not good. This diet is hurting me. This diet is causing damage. But you have like the thing is like we kind of like understand that with cocaine, right? So like when you withdraw from cocaine and alcohol and these things, you understand it's going to be a couple weeks of just absolute misery and sweating. But if you were listening to your body, you're like, oh, this is damaging me. Obviously, this is a wrong move. You have to have some sort of sophisticated or logical reasoning behind what's going on to get you through to the other side. And so that's why I really like, I think people like Chafee and Kilts and Steak and Butter Gang and um, Dr. Sean Baker, all, Ken Berry, what's his name? Carrie Mann, all these people were so big and influential to get me to understanding like, okay, when I'm going through hell, it's because your body is doing the right thing. And it's so counterintuitive. It's so counterintuitive. And what sucks is so many people, like I said, the truth is buried under garbage. So as they start to be like, okay, I'm going to try this diet, and then they start going through hell and they start going through pain and they start going through sweats and they start like hallucinating sugar and they start, like it's it's sad. It's sad, but it's also like it's the way to get there. It's the way to the best health option. Because if you go vegan is going to tell you right off the bat, like get rid of processed foods and what I mean, eat these other foods, you're going to feel a lot better right off the bat. So you go, oh, this is good. But then as you start to decline in the mid to long term, you won't blame the vegan diet, if that makes
Right.
sense, because you're like, no, when I went vegan, I felt better.
Right. Right. It's the honeymoon. Yeah. Veganism, vegetarian, all that stuff. They have the honeymoon phase. Right.
Hmm.
And even
Yeah.
carnivore has a honeymoon phase. But the difference is that the longer you do carnivore, the more nourished you are, the more healthy your body becomes, the more healing happens because it is the proper to human diet. The honeymoon phase with veganism and vegetarianism goes away, and then you're just malnourished. Is all that's happening. Is your body starts to dwindle away, and you just become very malnourished. You know.
Well, I think that's why it's important that there are groups and communities and enough people speaking out all the time to let people know, like, hey, this is going to suck. Don't, I know you are hearing all these healing journeys, but I guarantee if I go ask pretty much almost all those people about their healing journey, it's going to start off with misery. So, like, for example, uh, when you got off all sugars and you got rid of your last carb, how miserable was it getting rid of your last carb to when you became fat adapted?
Well, honestly, it was a rough 5.5 weeks, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I'd been through 14 months of hell on that. Like, I can't tell you what made it better for me was first I put on all the weight. For people that don't know, I was 600 pounds when I was 14. Was huge my whole life, and I put on all the weight by drinking soda. I was massively addicted to soda.
Oh,
And so I had thought that I had quit the bad part of soda, so I was drinking diet soda at the time. And I had done that, and then I went on this 14 months of this weightlifter diet. And so that had me in such a terrible state. It was so bad, right? Because I never had any energy because I was eating just enough carbs to keep me from, I was still, to keep me insulin resistant, right? I now know this. I didn't know this at the time, but I was eating just enough carbs. I was eating like 150 to 200 grams of carbs a day, which was, and they're complex carbs, highly fibrous, like brown rice and,
mhm.
let's see, I was eating brown rice, maybe some couscous, some like mixed vegetables like broccoli and stuff. And I was getting just enough carbohydrates and Greek yogurt, low fat, of course, Greek yogurt and, egg
Low
whites
fat.
only. Yeah. And so I was getting just enough carbs to keep me insulin resistant, but to not switch over to trying to burn fat. And so when you think about that, I was putting a minute amount of energy in my body that my body that my body would and could convert to fuel. And I had no fat for hormone health, gut health, or brain health. So that was 14 months of hell, And I mean, I woke up every day just feeling like I got hit by a bus in the night. I had no energy. I had to drag myself out of bed every day. And I just felt like, you know, That's why it was so hard just to move forward. It was so hard just to get to the shower in the morning. It was so hard just to take the next steps just to keep moving back then, that I was sitting here going, I got to stick with something. And I just had faith that maybe it would start working. In my head at the time, it was like, if I do this long enough, the reason why I'm this tired is because I'm this heavy. So maybe this weight will get off me. I'll have more energy, whatever. That's what I was
Hmm.
thinking. And so the reason why I'm saying that is because even though the carb withdrawals and the sugar withdrawals are bad, I had done it in such a way by doing that diet for 14 months that I kind of half carb withdrawal, and I did kind of get off of most of the processed stuff. And I also got off most of the sugar. So I was drinking diet sodas, which was not any better, or a ton better, but at least I had lowered my carbs to like that 150 to 200 grams of carbs a day. So by the time I did do it, what it really was an addiction for caffeine and sugar, or caffeine and carbohydrates. I wanted the diet soda, and I wanted my rice and my brown rice and stuff. My body really wanted that, and it was pretty miserable for 5.5 weeks. The soda and caffeine being the hardest ones, the neutral sweet and caffeine, and that was 5.5 weeks of hell. But when it was over, I was free from everything. I was absolutely
Yeah.
free from all the cravings, and my brain health came back. But there's still things that happen. There's still nuances that happen, but I was free from cravings finally. For the first time in my life, I was no longer eating for a dopamine fix. I was eating for nourishment, and I could actually
Mhm.
tell the difference, which, I mean, that's a crazy spot to be in when the whole time you were eating for a dopamine fix.
And I do know like, I'm kind of like tired. What was very interesting is like when you're eating carbs, you get tired from the crash. But when you're on fat adapted, you're tired because you haven't eaten. Like, like, oh, it's been a long day. And then you eat, and all of a sudden you're like fueled up. I don't know. I feel the nuance, like you're saying, and the difference. And I just watched this thing on Dr. Sean Baker's channel before it came on about the study that they did with their applicants, or the volunteers, about people who drank regular soda, diet soda, milk, and water. Did you hear about that?
Huh.
So they had a study, and for, I can't remember the amount of time, but they had one group of people drink soda. They had the other group of people drink the same soda but diet with 0 calories, right? And
Yep.
then they had people on a group of milk, a group of people on milk, and then they had a group of people who only drank water. And after, I can't remember exactly how much, I'm gonna have to look up, but the people drinking soda gained a ton of weight. Like, I think we were talking like 20 pounds or something crazy. They gained a ton of weight just drinking soda, just switching. And I think it was like a liter of soda, but regardless, whatever they were drinking, they gained a bunch of weight. The people who were drinking milk didn't gain or lose any weight. And the people who were drinking water lost a bunch of weight, like quite a significant amount of weight. And then so everyone was like, okay, well, like, for example, what do you think happened with the diet soda?
Oh, if I had to guess, they probably gained weight because it's going to have an insulin response. People don't understand that the fake sugars still have an insulin response. Not all of them, but most of them do, and most of the NutraSweet does. Yeah, there's some stuff like stevia that's better, that's been proven not to have an insulin response, but even then, it keeps your carb cravings alive and it keeps that sweet palate alive, so you still have those deals. But I would have to guess probably didn't gain as much as the sugary soda, but it probably gained some from having an insulin response and making your insulin resistant higher.
You're too smart. That's exactly the answer. So they still gained weight, but not as much weight. But a lot of people are saying this, like, completely debunks the calories in, calories out, because the people who were drinking milk, uh, they didn't gain any weight or lose any weight, but they were having significantly more calories than the people who were drinking the diet soda, to show that artificial sweeteners exactly still have an insulin and an inflammatory response. So
100%.
So, but this was go to your point where it's like when you're drinking soda every day, people don't realize like it doesn't feel like a lot because it's liquid, just goes
Mhm.
down the hatch, right? But man, that's like one of the most inflammatory things and the most addictive things. Getting rid of milk was like one of the last cravings I had to get rid of. And it was one of the hardest things because that liquid like sugar and energy
Mhm.
was so hard to get rid of. And when you think you're drinking diet, you could be actually making things on your metabolic system even worse
Right.
because it confuses the system. So anyway, I just thought that I'm gonna look it up exactly what those numbers were, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. And the thing is, you're very right about liquid calories go down super easy, but I've kind of hacked that to my benefit, right? Because I think I've told you before that like I eat a bunch of egg yolks because it's
Hmm.
really good for DHA for my testosterone, and so it helps. It helps just keep. I don't know. Just it helps keep me feeling good. Makes my muscles feel good. I grow more muscle in the gym when I'm doing this, and so I use that same thing. I'm like, I was making all these omelets and stuff to get these eggs down, and I'm like, why don't I just drink them? Because I'll just take the yolks out because that's where all the DHEA is, and so I put 18 eggs and egg yolks in a container. Well, lo and behold, it's like 12 ounces. Well, I used to drink when I was young, putting all this weight on. I would drink, 24 12-ounce cans of soda throughout the day. Easy.
Yeah,
So I was like, well, if I can do that, I can drink three 12-ounce shots of egg yolks, once a day. So I just started making these 18 egg yolk drinks, and I just would consider it a protein drink. Sometimes I'd put a little bit of salt in there and just shoot it down in one gulp. And so that actually started being my superpower here.
that's yeah,
just to take down all that egg because it's so good for fat, it's so good for protein, it's so good for collagen and for your hormones, you know? And it's a super cheap way. I mean, that's a ton of egg, that's a ton of protein and food and nutrients about as cheaply as you can get it and about as fast as you can get it.
absolutely. I would say what it's like. What are eggs up there in Montana? Like 30 cents an egg, or
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to do it. It's like $7 for 24 of them. And these are like
oh,
these are like the free range Wilcox ones.
so
So
you're getting them cheap, cheap.
yeah, I get them at Costco. They're the Hooterite eggs. They're Wilcox. They're like, so yeah, I mean, it's like 7 divided by 24. Yeah, they're like 29 cents. Yeah, it's about 30 cents. And they are the free range eggs, you know?
Free range. So basically, how many do you put in a protein?
I put 18 of them in a drink.
18 of them.
Yep, 18
So how
egg
much does
yolks.
that cost?
Well, it'd
A
be
three,
36,
$6? It's like $6, right? Per
18.
protein shake.
Yeah, $5.40 for a protein shake.
Yeah, that's nothing.
No,
Considering that your coffee, which is devoid of nutrients, has a bunch of sugar, has a bunch of defense chemicals in it, and is addictive, is going
right?
to cost more than that. So,
Yeah, 100%. And this boosts my testosterone because, like you, I had low testosterone. Boosts my testosterone. It makes me want to go outside and lift heavy things and throw them around. It gets you, just the gains in the gym are so much better. And like, look, I'm not a gym bro guy or something. It's just that when I got healthy, my body started wanting to move more. And I'm very happy to, I kind of got a second chance at health and life here. So I'm very happy to lean into that. If my body wants to move more, I'm going to move it more. If it wants to lift heavy things, I'm going to lift heavy things. If it wants to get stronger and get more capable and agile and just be able to move more, that's what I'm going to do with it. I don't want to waste this opportunity. I have this extra chance here. So, but those eggs really help me do it. And so, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I probably spend 15, $16 a day on eggs, which sure, that's like $500 a month, but that's the majority of my food, you know. And then I have some meat every day as well, a couple pounds of meat. But it's compared to everything I save money on and not buying prescription drugs and all that. It's a no brainer for me, you know.
Absolutely. And I looked up a little bit more about that study. It was 1 liter, and I think it said for 6 months that they did this. And it was like, yeah, some people gained like 20 pounds, they said. It was
Oh,
ridiculous off the soda just by adding 1 liter.
I believe it, man. And that's the thing, right? Because I was always drinking soda when I was young, and it's because I really truly believe that I was born insulin resistant because we have a pandemic now of insulin resistant infants from the mothers eating a high sugar diet, and their infants are getting high glucose in the womb, and their little pancreas has put out these massive amounts of insulin, and they become insulin resistant in the womb, and then they're born
Jeez.
and they have this trouble. Well, that was me to a T, because I was never skinny a day in my life. I was a big baby. I was like a couple 100 pounds when I was like 6, 7 years old. And I just kept
Jeez.
getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I think I have a picture when I was 7 or 8, and I was like over 350 pounds.
What?
Yeah,
I need to
I
see this picture. My daughter is 9 right now. Actually, my son is 7, and he's like 40 pounds.
I know, and and I remember this Christmas because I bought this shirt at Crow West Ranchwear, and it was the biggest shirt that they had, and I was pretty miserable because I was popping the buttons on it, and because I mean
CC,
at 8 I
so,
couldn't find grown man shirts to fit.
jeez. CC says, so just carnivore and no veggies. You never have a BM again, right?
Right?
Oh my, that was you at eight
Yeah,
years old.
yeah. I was 8 years old, and that was like a 4X men's button-up shirt. And I was kind of tall for my age. Like I don't know. I bet I was probably 5'6" or 5'7", maybe even 5'8" there. Yeah, that was me at 8 years old, and that was a men's button-up shirt, and that was 1991. I was 8 years old. You know,
How much did you say you weighed?
I would say I'm just guesstimating, but I would say that I was somewhere around 300, maybe a little over.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's
people don't understand uh, how this works, because when you carry around a lot of weight, you get a very dense frame too.
mhm.
So, like, people always think that I'm heavier or lighter than I really am. And I think it's because, let me see if I can find another picture. I had this in here. And I think it's because they don't understand that I've been carrying around this weight so long that I end up being, I'm going to have to send it over here to my files. Let me pull this up. But what I was saying is that happened because I was insulin resistant as a infant, I think. And so, because this is my best guess of what happened there. And so, uh, when that happened, when you're insulin resistant, you don't make fuel out of fat. You can't. It doesn't make you don't get energy out of fat until you do something like the carnivore diet, where you flip your fuel source. But if you're having any kind of sugars and carbs still, your metabolism is just going to slow down and try to feed off those carbs, and you're never going to make the metabolic switch to being fat adapt, right? And so
Right,
that's why I kept drinking those stupid sugar sodas, because that was the only way I was getting energy, right? That was the only way I
right.
felt good, and it was the only way I was able to move. And I mean, I was 600 pounds when I was 14, but I would I would take that body, and I was going to work with it, and even when I was at work, I'm finally pulling this picture up. This picture here. Oh, the same one. This picture here. There we go. So, what's interesting is this picture. This is at my dad's funeral. Actually, I know I was about 650 pounds in this picture right here. This picture here was as heavy as I got. I was over like 715 pounds, and that was when I was stuck in a chair and I was on oxygen. But how much would you guess that I weighed in this picture?
Like to me, that does not look like more than I mean, how tall are you in that picture?
5'10".
5'10"? Yeah, that to me is like a 250 to 300 pound body at
Yeah,
max.
I weighed 500 pounds in that picture.
Whoa.
Right. And people don't understand it. So here's this picture and this so this picture when I was 650, this picture
Hmm.
when I was 500, and this is the overlay so you can see how many inches that I lost. And if you look at this chart, I built this chart to scale, and these are 1 inch squares on here, and these big squares are 1 foot. And that's how much actual size that I lost on this overlay of fat and inflammation, but I still, because of carrying around a big frame, I still was 500 pounds in this picture, you know? And that's what people don't understand. And I don't know that I fully understand it either, but it's pretty crazy, and I'm currently at 395 pounds roughly, depending on what day and how much fluid I've drank, because I could put on 20 pounds of fluid in a night because of lymphatic issues. But that's what happens. When you said that about the soda, that just clicked with me, because I'm like, yeah, that's how you grow a 700-pound body. Because everybody's like, oh, me and Lindy and Michael did a review on that Brandon Fraser movie, The Whale, because he was like a 700-pound guy or something, 700-pound guy. Did you ever see that movie? Are you there, Chad?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. You're back. You cut out there for a second. Did you ever see that movie, The Whale?
No.
Okay, well, it's a Hollywood movie about a 600, 700-pound guy. Brandon Fraser plays him, and in that movie, he has these spots in there where he like goes up. He takes a wheelchair and goes up to the refrigerator, and he pulls everything out of the refrigerator, and he binge eats. And I'm not saying that there's not binge eaters, but they want you to believe, he binge ate this pizza and all this crap until he threw up, and they want you to believe that that's how you become 600 or 700 pounds. That's what big food and big pharma want you to believe, that if you are that out of control and you can't control yourself and you eat like that, that's how you get to be 600 or 700 pounds. And it's not true. How you get to be 600 or 700 pounds was I didn't actually eat that much, because I had the ability to eat that much because I didn't have leptin sensitivity, so I could really pack it in. But the reality was I did that off of drinking sodas because that's what I made energy out of. And I didn't actually eat that much. I usually wouldn't eat breakfast or lunch. I would drink breakfast and lunch and sodas. And that's what kept me going. And then sometimes we'd have a big dinner, and sometimes we wouldn't, because I knew if I did, I'd weigh 900 pounds. So I was always trying to restrict, food my whole life. And so when you said that they gained 20 pounds in 6 months, taking a liter of soda, that's 40 pounds a year. Well, how fast can you gain an extra 500 pounds at 40
Yeah.
pounds a year?
Well, I think it's exponential. I think it's compounding. I don't
Yeah.
think it's just. I think like their body was like, handling it okay at the beginning, but I have to double check on the numbers. I was trying to look it up, but it's only in a video. Maybe we can listen to the video. But anywho, I have to double check. It was a lot, but I think it would be compounding. I think it was 20 years in the first 6 months. It might be 50 years in the second, or 50 pounds in the second 6 months.
Right.
You know what I mean, and so on and so forth.
Well, I know for me why that would be the case is because the last 100 pounds that I put on, which is this why it drives me nuts when people type in my comments and say it's impossible for you to lose that much weight. It was probably just water weight. And I'm like, of course it was water weight. I have lymphatic issues, but who cares? That's inflammation. It's weight. And so, yeah, I probably lost, and I know this because when I got COVID and got sick, I gained like 84 pounds of weight in like 3 weeks. And it was all fluid. It was all inflammation and fluid because I had congestive heart failure at that point. And so I put on all this massive amount of fluid. But so as you get sicker, more metabolically sick, you put on more inflammation, you have lymphatic issues, you have congestive heart failure issues. Yeah, you're going to put on ridiculous amounts of weight in
Yeah.
short
So
periods
let
of time.
let me ask about that. So yeah, so it's water weight for sure, but I mean, have you carried around 100 pounds of water? That's insane. You know what I mean? Like I've had 100 pound backpack on. Doesn't care. I don't care if it's water or anything. 100 pounds is heavy, right? And so if you lose 100 pounds, that is 100 pounds of less stress on the body. That's 100 pounds around the body that's less stressful for your lymphatic system. That's 100 pounds less on your body to us to energize, to take care of, to maintain, right? So yeah, it's like why would people care about where the weight is coming from in that sense? It's like if you had a 100 pound person jump off of you, do you know how alleviating that would be?
Oh,
Who
seriously.
cares? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, I do now. Like it's so funny because when you're used to carrying around that weight, you know, you don't see yourself the way people on the outside see, and you can't even really relate because it's just always the way you've been. But now that I have 300 pounds off, and I go in the gym to go lift 205 on the bench, I'm like, good Lord, this is heavy. When I go put a couple hundred pounds on the squat rack to go squat a couple hundred pounds, I'm like, this sucks, right? Like it's hard. And I'm like, I used to carry around more than this. I used to carry around 300 pounds. No wonder everything was so hard. No wonder, I couldn't breathe. No wonder I got congestive heart failure, all these things had happened. So yeah, well, exactly. And the truth is that when you have all that fluid on you, most of the time it's going to be full of inflammation, and lactic acid is what that fluid is, and uric acid, and it's not good for you, right? And it gets in your lungs. It makes it hard to breathe. You have congestive heart failure, you have organ failure, you have kidney problems. Like all these things happen and make it just absolutely miserable. So yeah, but it's the propaganda that we've let people that people have been brainwashed with to believe that fat is the enemy and that fat is the
mhm.
problem. Fat is just a parallel symptom, right? Like fat is actually trying to save us. It's trying to encapsulate all this glucose and it's trying to turn it into fat so that we don't sit here and have organ failure and strokes from dealing with all the glucose. It's trying to encapsulate all the processed garbage and poison that we're putting in there. And it's trying to find a place to put it and kind of save us from all that toxin, right? And that's why we
You,
do the. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was saying you said something really good there that a lot of people don't really connect because they think that when they have extra energy, it transforms it to glucose or sorry, from glucose to a fat cell. So that way you just have extra energy for later, which is not 100% wrong, but it's there to keep you alive. It's
Mm-hmm.
there to smother the because having access glucose in the bloodstream is toxic.
Toxic. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't, they think like, no, it's just the normal process of taking extra energy and storing it away.
For
That's
sure.
not the case.
No, no, we're only I ever like a tablespoon of glucose in the blood away from death. Like 1 tablespoon is fine, 2 tablespoons is death, right? So in the human body, which I don't know, I think there's like 6 liters of blood in the average human body, something like
Mhm.
that. If you have 1 tablespoon of sugar in the blood, your body can handle it fine, and they say you won't even be insulin resistant. I don't know, but if you have 2 tablespoons of glucose in the blood, it'll kill you, right? So you're only a tablespoon of glucose away from dying most of the time when you're eating, these ridiculous high carbohydrate meals, right? So
Mhm.
our body is literally trying to burn it up. That's why we get this rush of energy and high, and our metabolism starts running high because it's got to burn this crap out of our body before we have a stroke or organ failure. But then it also starts grabbing it and it starts putting it in to fat cells, and this is how we become insulin resistant, where our insulin doesn't do its job anymore, and our body doesn't switch back to burning fat. It just stays in carbohydrate burning mode because it's not just trying to make fuel out of it. It's trying to save it. It's trying to save you. It's trying to get it out of your blood and it's trying to put it into fat cells so that you don't stroke out, so that it doesn't kill you. It's that dangerous and people don't realize that. It's crazy. And
Eh,
so, you
I
know,
think that's also where bacteria comes from. Like bacteria within your body. I think that we have parasites that live in our body help offset the damage we're doing to it. So it's like, man, if we have these other billions of bacteria helping eating some of this, at least part of us aren't eating it. So we always call it like bad bacteria, but I honestly believe, based off what I've researched, that these parasites that are in there are helping take the load of the crap that you're putting in it. So it wouldn't be in there unless you fed it to them, and they're doing you a favor by taking some of that load away from your body. It's like your body's trying to use all of its resources, even outsourcing who's eating it, so that way you could live. Is
Right.
your insulin going up? Your fat cells going to the the excess sugar in your blood? Your
Yep.
body upregulating. It's so many different processes just to keep you alive. We're so lucky that our bodies are so intelligent that it could handle us poisoning it.
For
Like
sure.
it could handle like, hey, I know you're an idiot and you're putting food inside me that's literally poisoning us, but I am going to find a way to make this happen. And they still make it happen.
Right. It does. And that's why it's incredible. And this is why people need to understand. I used to think, oh, you hear that if you walk 10 miles, and I said this too, Chafee's line, you walk 10 miles in the forest, you got to walk 10 miles back. But the only thing is that it's more like we should have been 25 miles in the forest, but we're only 10 miles in the forest because our body did such a good job at fighting all the poison that we put in it. It actually fought it off very well, very resilient. And it actually, despite all the efforts of us to poison ourselves, it did a really good job with what it had to work with. And eventually, it just runs out of building blocks. It runs out of immune support. It runs out of all these things, the proteins, immunity support, collagen, amino acids. And it just gets so run down that it can't do a good job anymore. But when you start, this is why carnivore works, because when you start nourishing the body and you heal your immune system and you heal your mitochondria and you heal your metabolic disease and your body starts to be able to work, just like it was slowing down the damage that it was doing for all those years, it can speed it up and it can really get rid of it quick. I mean, I'm 22 months into carnivore and I've cured congestive heart failure, depression, anxiety, reactive airway disease, like 90% of my lymphedema issues. I'm down over 310 pounds, and healed my eyes, my goiter that was in my throat that I believe I had. I'm not 100% sure, but I had something going on in my throat that's cleared up with the iodine. Grew my eyebrows back from hypothyroidism. Just all these problems, and I'm completely off. I was completely dependent on home oxygen, 6 liters, completely gone. All these things healed up in 22 months, but it was the damage that I've been doing since literally I was a kid, right? So it's not really 10 miles in, 10 miles out. I really probably should have been 30 miles in, and my body has cleared up. I would say that I'll be about as good as I'm going to get in probably another 3 years. But it really did about 26 years. It's cleaned up about 26 years of pretty terrible damage, I bet, and it'll do it in 4 to 5 years. And I'm already completely off of medication and everything in just 22 months. And that's because, to your point, Chad, our bodies are amazing when you give them what they need to work.
Yeah, they're the alpha predators of the world. And not only that, the, like they know how to heal themselves. Like we can go to bed injured and wake up healed. Like that that's remarkable. That's incredible. Like it, it's a magic power. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean? It's a magic ability. Our bodies are capable of doing all these things, and it's like the most sophisticated machine. Like if you were to view it like a machine, you'd be like, "Oh my God, this is beyond sophisticated." And that's
100%.
the body that is you were born with. And imagine how good it could operate if you gave it the proper fuel. Like imagine. It's
Oh,
incredible.
for sure. It is incredible. Well, and we kind of got a little bit sidetracked, but not really. I love the conversation, but we are wanting to bring awareness to a call we're doing in SBG as well, called Iron Sharpens Iron, where we are going to do live Zoom calls in SBG. every Saturday. So we have one coming up in just a couple of days where we're concentrating on carnivore and what it means for men's health and men's mental health, to help people, help the men get free from anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, all of those things. And we've seen people heal from all of them. And so we're just trying to build a good call in there. And so we're kind of wanting to bring awareness to it. So in the link here, we used to try to do this. I tried to do this, and I think Chad tried to do it outside of communities, kind of trying to do it one-on-one. And I don't know about you, Chad, but I didn't have much luck with people because they didn't have a community to help support them. And so, and it, they liked what we were saying, but man, after I would talk to them for an hour a week, they would have to go live in their real lives for the rest of the week, and they couldn't stay on carnivore because they would fall off. They'd fall back into carbohydrates, and and their family would tell them that they're crazy and all this stuff. And so that's why we decided to do this with inside of SBG, because SBG is a carnivore community that can teach you how to get off the sugar addiction, how to get on to carnivore, and how to be sustainable and accountable. And so then we are working with that side of things to also show you kind of how to work with it for men's mental health. So,
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of men suffer in silence. Too many men. I say this statistic all the time, but 22 vets a day commit suicide. 135 Americans a day commit suicide. 1.6 million Americans attempt suicide a year. 68% of those suicides, that successful suicides, are by white males. If you're a man, you're 4 times more likely to commit suicide if you're a female. And so a lot of men are obviously suffering in silence, especially our combat veterans who are dealing with PTSD, and they just have the sense that they're broken. And my goal is to go out and tell men who have PTSD.
sorry, you cut out there a little bit, Chad. Well, he's getting hooked back up. I think he
Yeah.
just. Oh, there you go. You're back.
And so where did I get cut off at?
You said that your mission was to help men with PTSD, and then you cut off there.
Okay, so yeah, and my goal is to let people know that what's happened to them in life, like that's not a life sentence. Even though it's not easy, the answer is extremely simple. To get on a proper human diet, to start taking responsibility over your own human health, to I mean, like there's a series of things, but it's extremely simple. It's not unprecedented, and it seems off only because of regular life conditioning that the like you said, the pharmaceutical companies and the food companies want you to hear. But the answer is you are not trapped. You do not need to be trapped on medications. You do not need to be messing around with your neurotransmitters with exogenous carbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, or sorry, exogenous chemicals, but carbs as well. But like you don't want to be putting outside chemicals to mess with your brain chemicals in order to fix you, because you're not ultimately solving the problem. You're not ultimately going to the source of the issue. And so with iron sharpens iron, we want to reach out to men and say like, hey, let's get this shit under control. Let's let's get you on the right track, right? Let's get you surrounded by a group of dudes plus a community on top of that, where you can just be a man. You can talk about what you're dealing with, what you're suffering with. And I can almost guarantee that between all of us, there's somebody who has a relation with you or a story that's parallel to you, and that we could find some way of getting you on the right path.
100%. And it's I found out how big this was. And this just goes to show you, right, how the culture is sculpted right now, and how men do suffer in silence. I didn't even know that depression, anxiety was diet related at when I was going through it. And so I wasn't trying to treat it with food. I was trying to treat the weight with food. And I thought if the weight came off, my life would get better. Depression, anxiety might go away. So, so I basically, my experience has been off of insulin resistance and weight. However, 80% of the people that contact me, even though I came from 700 plus pounds, and that to me, that to most people is something that doesn't happen very often, where you come back from being 700 plus pounds without some sort of bariatric surgery or a pill or Ozempic, like to do it with diet and to be free from all the addictions and eating disorders and stuff that come with being that big. That should stand out. But even in that light, 80% of the messages that I get have nothing to do with weight and everything to do with mental health. Men saying, how did you get rid of the depression, anxiety? How did you do that with the diet? So I realized that even though we live in a country that, like 74% of the Earth's population is obese or overweight, even though that's the case, more people are reaching out to me, more men are reaching out to me about anxiety and depression and men's mental health than the weight. So that to me really stood out. I was like, oh, when I talk about that stuff, it's really ringing a bell with people, and kind of makes sense too, right? Because a lot of guys don't really care if they're a little bit overweight or whatever. Like, guys aren't that bent on it, but they do care when they can't mentally function, when they're being tormented. That that is the thing that's got them talking to me. So that's also why we're doing this, is because we realize, oh, this is a very underserved population of men here that are not getting help. And I've lost 3 friends to suicide in the last 24 months, and that are super good people, really, really good people, and they took their lives because they didn't know how to get, they too didn't know that diet was likely the main cause and that they could be free from it, and they didn't know where to find a place. So you got to wonder what a good community with an actual answer, just like I found the real answer to a weight loss, to the weight problem that plagued me my entire life. There's people out there that don't know that there's a proper human diet out there that can heal this. You know what I mean? So we got to get that word out there, and so that's what we're trying to spread for sure. And so we can just talk about it because it's clearly happening to more people. All those statistics. I wonder if they're. I feel like they have to be underserved with how many people are actually suffering from it, because men don't talk about it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they're not talking about it at all. And the, how do you say this? Where it's like, when they do studies, for example, I know this is going to be a really weird example, but like men watching porn, or like a study about okay, like this is going to be a funny one, but it's like penis size. How do you
Mhm.
find out the average penis size? Well, we need a bunch of people come in here and measure their dick, right? But who's going to be willing to do that? Only people who are confident and getting their their penis size
Yeah.
measured are going to go. So it's going to like, but who's talking about that? It's taboo to talk about. Same thing. It's like, who's going to admit to watching porn and the type of porn that they watch? And so we don't get these. The men who are suffering oftentimes are going to have the opposite effect, where it's like they're not willing to, it's like a shame, you know what I mean? They're not willing to go out and publicly be like, "Hey, I don't feel like a man," or "I'm suffering every day and I can't do the normal things I'm supposed to do," because you're supposed to shut up and do it. You're supposed to get it done. It doesn't matter, and grit through it. And parts of that are true, but the thing is, like, you're not giving the resources in order. You're not receiving the resources in order to accomplish that. And
Mhm.
that's what I had to realize. And if I was alone in the dark, when I was alone in the dark, how excited I would have been with someone with a flashlight to be like, "Oh, just come this way." And that's what I feel like we're doing. We're just like providing a flashlight for people who are alone in the dark. And
Right.
it's like, here, let's literally shed some light on the issue. So that's kind of like the way I see it.
Absolutely. Well, so with that in mind, we put I have a link in the description here for SBG. And you guys, if you want to, if you have a husband or somebody in your family that you want, maybe show them the link, or if you yourself want to join up, we'd love to have you in the community and show up to our meetings on Saturdays. And we'd like to start to grow this, and especially we're trying to especially target military and first responders and stuff, and try to help them PTSD as well. So we'd love to have you guys. I mean, it's open to everybody for sure, but we'd love to have you guys in there, and we'd love to kind of grow this group and see what we can do. Because I mean, I've just been surprised how, I've been doing YouTube now about, I guess, 14 months, and every time I do an interview or talk to people that have had depression and anxiety, that's the ones I pay attention to because that's what I had. But everybody says that it cleared up, Carrie Mann being one of them. Everybody I talk to, it's like, for me, the two things that clear up almost automatically on Carnivore are depression and anxiety and type 2 diabetes. It's like those are a foregone conclusion when you go carnivore. You know what I mean? They're like not
Yeah.
even a problem. And so I just want to get people in there to, and the reason why we want to do this, and I get no money for saying this, the reason why we want to do it in SBG is so you have a community. Because if you don't, I can't work with you enough to give you the support you need to not fall off carnivore when you get home. And that's what I found over the last 14 months of trying to help people online. They message me through TikTok and through Instagram and through my emails and the comments on my videos and stuff. And we'll get together, and I'll even have them come on here to StreamYard and just not record it, but we'll have a talk, and I'll tell them what I do and the last questions, and it'll take an hour, and they'll come back and forth to me several times. But they fall off every time. Like, you'll hear they'll be gung ho for 2 weeks, and then they're gone. They ghost you, and it's because they fell off and they're ashamed, and it goes into their head, and they think, oh, this is just another fad diet, and what was I thinking? It's not sustainable. But when you get into SBG and you see 100, 200 people in these Zoom calls that talk to you, and they all have gone through it, and a bunch of them, like me, I'm 22 months, Coach Raymond's like 6 months or 6 years, Bella's like 5 years or something. And you start seeing all these long-time carnivores that it not only is it sustainable, but now it's easy and it's completely freedom, and they have all the answers. You have this collective amount of information that can help you get through all the struggles that you have in the first 6 months and first year. But then also it combats the world, because when you get out there, there's a whole bunch of propaganda on TV and with all the people that you're going to run into that says that red meat's going to give you cancer, that cholesterol is going to give you heart disease. It's going to tell you everything that's bad about it, and that you're going to be nutriently deficient if you don't have vegetables. But then you go in and you see hundreds of people that have been doing this for years that are in the best shape of their lives, that are thriving, and that are free from all these problems, and that were previously vegans and had tried all these things. That helps so that you can understand what's going on. And these are people that are not paid. They have no skin in the game as far as, they're not biased in any reason. They're just showing you their real life day-to-day experience. And they've been freed from metabolic disease and, God knows what else. And so when you get around that community, it works very, very well to kind of keep you laser focused and to kind of build your encouragement so that you keep going,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, Charlie said it good here for sure. SBG is not just a girls club. There's lots of men there to talk with for sure. Charlie's in the club there, the SBG group. Chad is, I am, Jeff is, Coach Raymond, and we're trying to build it up. And because Men don't think that they need communities, but I'm here to tell you, they're very, very helpful. They're very helpful to keep things on track. So,
I
but
agree. I think men need community. You still there?
understand. Yeah, you cut out just a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit there.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I think men need community, if not the most. Of course, everyone needs community, but like men depended on community to hunt, to make society, to make all these things happen. Like, there's a piece of you missing for everybody, not just men, but when you don't have community. So even if your community is online, when I went carnivore, I say this to a lot of people. My sister and mom organized an intervention for me, and it didn't get executed because my wife was like, "It's if you do that, it's not going to go well."
Mm.
Um, but yeah, they wanted to get so like some of the closest people. My sister and I are extremely close, and my mom um, is another story. But like, I'm just saying that the some of the people, the closest people in your life, will think you're crazy and want to throw you an intervention. They would want to intervene with your life by going carnivore. So who was I? Like, I'm surrounded by people who were literally trying to change my carnivore lifestyle. So it's like it's not like they make it easier on you once you do that. So having a group of people to go and talk with and hang out with and discuss this with might be some of the most important people that you meet to get you on a healthy lifestyle, to get you on a way of eating that it promotes the optimal best version of you. For me, that's what it is. Like, I like hanging out in these calls. I like hanging out in the SBG chats and things like that, because it's like, God, it's so refreshing to hear like-minded people talk about reaching their optimal goals. And when you're out in the world and everyone thinks you're crazy, especially the people closest to you, it can be exhausting, and it can lack motivation. So
100%. And I mean, it's so encouraging, and it's encouraging, and it's also, it just takes away the paranoia and all the stuff that you're getting bombarded with in the day. When you go into SBG and you see, like, you talk to Dr. Chafee, who's a medical doctor, you talk to Dr. Tony
right,
Hampton, talk to Dr. Phil, you talk, you talk to people that have all walked this walk, and healed metabolic disease, healed, type 2 diabetes, have greatly improved type 1 diabetes, have healed so many different conditions and become mobile again and gotten off of the sugar cravings and, healed metabolic disease and everything, lost tons of weight. And you can see their before and after pictures. And I mean, they're showing up to these Zoom calls, which they have many of them, every week, like 8 to 10 Zoom calls a week in SBG. And these are going on, and you get to know these people and see them and actually watch them change right in front of your eyes and watch them exude health and just thrive. Like myself, I mean, I'm a different human being, than I was 22 months ago. And when you see that, all of a sudden, those people, when you're looking at your doctor that's 150 pounds overweight and inflamed in the face, that's telling you, that you're, this is going to kill you or whatever, you start looking at the medical professionals, and then you go look at like Sean Baker and, Anthony Chafee and Dr. Kiltz that are all in fantastic shape. That are like, no, you don't need that stuff. And you start seeing people that are thriving and they're just glowing with energy. And you start going,
yeah.
oh, these are drug dealers and they've been indoctrinated. And these people are healers, right? They're using diet and their medical knowledge to heal people and get them off of drugs. And people are thriving, and they're doing it through the proper human diet. So it's quite incredible to watch, and it's quite encouraging. So one more time, we'd definitely like to encourage you guys to join up with the SPG, the Steak and Butter Gang. The link is in the description. And then also, I do have to say that we are doing a panel. Actually, Bella's doing 2 panels, and I'm on one of them at Hack Your Health in Tampa, Florida. November of 2025, which was previously known as KetoCon, but that will be in Tampa, Florida, and we have a discount link, and it's only good, I believe, for the next 30 days, and it is all capital letters Carnivore, and that I believe is in the description as well of this video. And right now is the best time to get a ticket if you're going to, because they're as cheap as they're ever going to be. Because with that code Carnivore, it gets you $100 off of your ticket, whatever day ticket or weekend pass you use. It gets you $100 off of it. So we'd like to encourage you to use that, because last year it went from like the first 60 days, which I think there's 30 days left, where it was $100 off, and then the rest of the time it was $50 off, and then I think at the end it was like $25 off. So we'd like to encourage you guys, if you're planning on going, you want to go to Tampa and see Hack Your Health, to use that code and get $100 off your ticket. So because we'd love to see you there and love to meet all you guys. So, but yeah, you got anything exciting coming up this week, Chad, other than our call on Saturday in SBG?
Yeah, call. And then what's going on with the Friday thing?
Oh
With
yeah, that's right. We have a live stream tomorrow with Bella the Steak and Butter Gal and the SBG gang, and Chad. Chad and myself will be there with Bella, Limitless Lindy, I believe Coach Amy, and Coach Raymond will be there, and I'm not sure who else, but we're going to do a fun Q&A live stream tomorrow night at I believe it is 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So love to see you guys there as well.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm excited just to be on these calls, to get settled in and start doing this. I'm a little bit frustrated with my internet connection because I just set it up and it's been working great. So maybe I got to make some adjustments. I am on the Starlink, and I just set it up and everything has been going great, but I kind of on the far corner from the house, so I don't know if
I got you.
but I'll figure it out though. But I will make sure that I have better internet connection next time. But yeah, so that's what I'll be doing this week, is fixing my internet connection, making sure it's solid.
Right on. Well, I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on, Chad. We are going to be doing this every Thursday, so if we'd like to make this a little bit bigger. Willie says solar flares. Well, that surely could be. That's interesting. But we're going to be doing this every Thursday in preparation for our Saturday calls. So if you have any husbands or loved ones that would like to talk and ask questions, by the way, you guys, I don't know if you see the ticker tape, but you guys are more than welcome to put questions in the chat. We'd love to answer them. But you're more than welcome to bring anybody with you to these lives on Thursday that might need to hear this message, so we can get them hooked up with the SBG gang, so we can start getting them some help and getting them on Carnivore.